In this section, we're going to look at scripting and scheduling. So these are two functions of Essentials which enable you to execute jobs by running them through a command line script or scheduling them to run at a later time or a recurring series of events using Windows Task Scheduler. So the reasons you may want to use scripting is perhaps you want to combine multiple scripts, or you've got some scripting expertise, or you want to include the jobs in perhaps PowerShell script scheduling, maybe because you want to run something out of hours or on a recurring basis. Another advantage of scripting is that when you use the script, it doesn't generate the user interface. So it saves a small bit of processing power by not having to do that. So first, let's look at using the script methodology. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up a migration, and we're going to execute that using a script. So in my connections here, I'm going to drill down into an Office 365 connection, into this site collection Meta1, into this subsite called Finance, and load the contents of this document library called Confidential Documents. So there's one document in there called Confidential 1. So I'm going to migrate that by right-clicking on it and choosing Copy into this library here just called Documents. Now, I'm doing this within a tenant, but tenant to tenant or on-premises to Office 365 works in the same way. I'm going to click Paste. And that's going to open the migration wizard. So I click on Next. This is asking me to specify the metadata in the target. So it's picked up the content type in the target as a Meta1 document and matched all of the fields, because in this example, the content types in the source and the target are the same and have the same fields. Next, we have the advanced options where we can choose whether or not to include versions, overwrite if the file exists, and so on. You'll notice down here now we have the option to generate a script, which is no longer grayed out. So if I click on that, it will generate this command line script. And if I choose Copy to Clipboard and just open that in Notepad, we can see there's a script for the job, and it has things like the source site, target site, and so on. So I'm going to keep that there. I'm just going to close these options here. And what I'm going to do is just show you quickly the scripting reference guide. So that sits under the user manual here, and if I search for script and click on the scripting reference guide, this describes all of the operators within the script. So just quickly, if we search for one of these like src site, just copy that and go and find it here. I'm going to do a Control F and paste that into there. It shows us there in this table that src site URL means the source site URL. So in the job I've created, the source site URL is that one there. So right, let's now look at how to execute this script. So if I minimize my windows here and just leave this open and open a command line script here, cmd. In order for this to work, I need to navigate to the folder that Essentials is installed on. So on my machine, I'm going to go cd ... and go cd program files, cd metalogics, Now I've installed this several times, so my folder is called Essentials 3, but in a normal installation it will just be called Essentials and cd metaviz. So from there I can execute this script. So if I just copy this here and paste that in there and hit return, that should now have executed that migration job. So what we can do now, if I go back to Essentials, so now if I double click the document library, you'll see that the document I migrated, the confidential one, has appeared in the library. So that's been migrated using the scripting method. So next we'll look at scheduling a job. So if we look at the same job again, I'll just delete this document. Okay. Now I go once again and migrate a single document. So right click and choose Copy, and right click in the target and choose Paste. So there's the target, the metadata, the options. So now we've got the option also to schedule. So I can schedule this job to run using Windows Task Scheduler, and we can schedule this to happen once only or on a recurring basis. So let's just schedule it once only for today. Let's call it migration 1. Click Next and set it to take place, let's say in 5 minutes time. Click Next and click Finish. Okay, so now it's asking me whether I want to store my credentials with the job or not. So if I choose to store my credentials with a job, and it can run then perhaps when I'm signed out. If I choose no, don't store my credentials with a task, then I'll have to be signed in for it to work. So for today's example, I'm just going to choose no, don't store my credentials with this task, and click OK. So that says now the task was created successfully, and that opens Windows Task Scheduler. So that sits under here, Architect Tasks, and there it is, Migration 1. Ready to be executed at 15:55 today. So if I leave that running and we check back in 5 minutes, that should have executed successfully. So if I move back to Essentials and load the Documents document library, we'll see that it now contains the file we migrated, confidential 1, which we migrated this time using a schedule job. So that's how to execute jobs using the command line script, and also how to schedule jobs. And you can use this for many things, not just migration, also collecting data and backups.